Just to clarify, this is going to be information session 1 out of 4. I'm glad you're able to meet with us here today. If this time doesn't work for whatever reason, or if you missed the information, there are going to be 3 more options in which we'll be presenting the very same information. And so just be on the lookout for the Zoom recording following this session, as well as more opportunities to listen in. I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about this program, and then I'm going to be able to tell you about the run of show for today. So thanks everyone for confirming that you can hear me. All right. The goal of the Miami Open for Business program is to support historically underserved small businesses and nonprofit organizations in Miami-Dade County, specifically to help them build resilience and generational wealth, especially coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic had disproportionate impacts on families and entrepreneurs all throughout the US, and especially here in South Florida. We know also that there's a very pervasive racial wealth gap that exists, and small business is one of the fastest ways for families to really experience economic mobility and transition. With this in mind, Wells Fargo has seeded an initiative across 5 US cities, one of whom is Miami, Florida, and each city received $20 million devoted to asset building. Asset building in this context means the purchase and ownership of business assets, things like technology, equipment, machinery, inventory, all the way through to commercial real estate property. In order to help the Miami Foundation distribute these funds, we selected a community development financial institution, also known as a CDFI, through a competitive request for proposals process, and that is Partners for Self-Employment, who will be helping us with some of the lending and the microgrants to small businesses. This just gives you all a little bit of a background about the initiative, why it is that we're working in this space, and who our partners are. And please let me know in the chat if the volume is a little better. I know that it still seems like it might be low for some attendees, so just let me know in the chat if that's the case. To share what we're going to walk through today, we're going to spend the first 15 minutes presenting some core details about the program, the loan offerings, the grant offerings. This will probably answer some of your questions, and then we'll open it up for further Q&A. Just to make sure we're making the best use of everyone's time here today, if you have a very specific question about your business, for instance, where you're incorporated, your years of operation, your annual revenue, or what you think you'd like to get funded, please feel free to jot that question down and send it over via email. When there's a lot of specific cases, we want to make sure that we're getting you the right information. So if you have a very, very detailed question about your case, please email it to one of these addresses. And then if you do still have a question that you would like to ask today, help us better understand whether it is about the website, the interface, the application, or if it's more about the program. We have our website developers on the line with us today. So if you are experiencing any challenges with the application or the web interface, please let us know. I also do just want to acknowledge all of the application materials are available in Spanish and Haitian Creole. This info session will be conducted primarily in English, but if you're on the line today and you would need to receive the info session in Spanish, please let us know, put it in the chat, and we'll be sure to follow up at the end of today's session with some information in Spanish. Excellent. So now to dive a little bit into Open for Business, I see there's a note in the chat. So María Ricarda Sergin, al final de la sesión podemos ofrecer toda la información aquí incluida también en español al final a la sesión. So here we're going to go over the 3 core products for Miami Open for Business. The way that this initiative was developed was in close collaboration with community stakeholders, our own advisory group of stakeholders, really visiting small businesses, listening to what their needs are, and understanding what our opportunities are for financing. So we have 3 distinct offers, the first of which is a micro grant to help you buy technology, which includes both hardware and software, and equipment and machinery. What equipment and machinery is may look very different from one business to the next, but these are basically tools, implements, cleaning items, food and beverage prep, manufacturing tools, what have you. A total of approximately $800,000 will be awarded in the micro grant category to anywhere from 40 to 60 organizations, depending on the number of proposals we get and the dollar amount in those proposals. We'll be talking about the microgrant in a little bit more detail soon. I also am going to talk to you all today about the ABLE Fund. This stands for Asset Building Loans for Entrepreneurs. Very, very low interest loans to help your business finance either a vehicle, inventory, renovations to your space, refinance predatory debt, succession financing, that is the transfer of the business to a new owner, as well as a worker co-op conversion. We'll talk about each of these use cases in a little bit more detail. My colleague, Maria Cotto, who is the Executive Director of Partners for Self-Employment, is on the line today and will be able to talk with you about these ABLE loans. A total of $2 million in ABLE loans will be awarded to 30 to 50 organizations each year. The last and third offering coming out of Miami Open for Business is collective real estate ownership funding. I do want to flag that the informational session today is not designed to talk about the CREO funding opportunity. Instead, we'll primarily be talking about the microgrants and the loan fund. If you do have questions about CREO real estate funding, be sure to attend our upcoming info sessions on October 18th and October 20th. Excellent. So let's get right into it. Quick show of hands, or let me know in the chat, how many of you are attending on behalf of a nonprofit organization, and how many of you are here from a for-profit business like an LLC, a partnership, etc. Great. Next time I'll do this in a poll. Great, we have a great mix. We have a lot of nonprofits in the room, some for-profits. Excellent, excellent. So what we want to know is what organization you're coming from so that you know where to apply. As mentioned, our Partners for Self-Employment financial institution, who is helping us with the initiative, they operate a devoted portal for for-profit businesses. So if you want a technology and equipment microgrant and you come from a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, or operate under a fiscal charity, you will be using the submittable for Miami Foundation that is on Open for Business. Many of you may know that we use submittable for a lot of grant opportunities at the foundation. This submittable is going to be specific to Open for Business, and I'll be sure to put these links in the chat. If you are a for-profit business and you're interested in applying for a technology or equipment microgrant, then you will go straight to the Partners for Self-Employment portal. It is called Miami OFB Loans, but you can also find your grants on there, and that's where you will apply. If your organization is interested in a loan, no matter how your organization is incorporated, then you will apply for a loan on the PSE portal. And so just know that there are a couple of different places that you will apply based on your organization's type. And this is a helpful chart so that you can know where to apply for what. I did put for the nonprofit organizations the link to the Miami Open for Business submittable in the chat. And then we'll also put the link to the Partners for Self-Employment portal in the chat as well. Excuse me. So before we dive into the application process and some deadlines, let me get some common questions out of the way immediately. Many folks want to know if they can apply for more than one type of funding. Yes, in any particular funding cycle, you can apply for a microgrant and a loan. If you do receive funding within one of those categories, though, we kindly ask that you refrain from applying again so that we can support as many organizations as possible. Let's say you apply for a microgrant and a loan this year, but you only get a loan. You can continue to apply for a microgrant in the next funding cycles. And what happens if you're not awarded, even if you applied for multiple opportunities? That's okay. You can still reapply in the future. This initiative is going on for several years, so we'll be offering 2 funding cycles every year for the next 2 years. Some folks are also wondering if they can apply for more than one purpose. So let's say you want to get a microgrant for both technology and machinery. At this time, we really want to make sure we can serve as many organizations as possible. So we're asking that somebody request one use case. So this means for the loan, either request inventory or remodeling, a vehicle or succession financing, just to make sure we can support as many folks as possible. Many folks also wonder which opportunity they should apply for first. We want to share that the microgrant application has a fixed deadline of Monday, November 7th. At that point, we'll take all of the applications that we have received, we will score them, and we will make award decisions, whereas the loan fund is accepting applications and is funding loans on a rolling basis. through just the 1st of December. So if you need to prioritize your time, we recommend putting in a submission for the microgrant and then applying for the loan. And again, these opportunities will continue the next year all the way through 2024. So if you aren't funded this year, don't despair. There's plenty of opportunities to submit a proposal in the future. What are the basic eligibility requirements to be eligible for a Miami Open for Business financial product? As mentioned at the top of this call, we're really centering nonprofit organizations and small businesses that have been owned or led by an individual from a historically underserved background. This is consistent with the funder guidelines from Wells Fargo. It's also consistent with what we know about the evidence around the racial wealth gap and also opportunities for capital access in the small business sector. At this time, organizations must have been in existence for at least 2 years. We know there's been some questions about the year that your company was founded versus the year that you've been properly registered. As long as you have some proof of incorporation or operation for 2 years, that will suffice. And to make sure we're targeting the smallest organizations who aren't typically eligible for big financial opportunities, for the grants and the loans, you must have an annual gross revenue, or in the case of a nonprofit, an operating budget of $1 million or less. These are the basic eligibility requirements for the grants and the loans. The eligibility requirements for the real estate offering will differ slightly, and if you're also interested in applying for that, we encourage you to attend on October 18th or 20th. You may wonder how your application that you submit by November 7th and your loan application will be scored and assessed. These are the 6 core scoring criteria that we will use when we review the application that you submit. Of course, we want to make sure that the organization is representing and is owned or operated by an individual from historically underserved communities. We also want to prioritize organizations and businesses that provide a community good or service, whether that is, and this can be broadly defined in the sense of how you see it, what is the good or service that you provide that helps make a difference? This does mean that businesses in particular industries such as adult entertainment, firearms, alcohol, etc., as well as businesses that focus exclusively on international affairs are not eligible to apply. We also want to make sure that we're supporting organizations that have strong organizational and financial capacity. If we are awarding a loan, for example, we want to ensure that the business has sufficient cash flow and projected revenue to repay that loan in the future. We also want to make sure that you're properly incorporated and that you have the registration information for Miami-Dade County and the respective municipality in the case that you operate one of those. So for example, if you operate in Miami Gardens, we want to make sure that you have your Miami-Dade County business tax license as well as the proper registration with that municipality. There's some more specific information about documentation later in the presentation, but we want to make sure that we're supporting organizations that have abided by the rules and regulations for operating in the county. We also want to help award firms that are offering quality jobs and employment opportunities, especially if you are offering at least a living wage, benefits to your employees, you prioritize employing people from the adjacent community or individuals from marginalized backgrounds. This does not mean that sole proprietorships are ineligible. We still encourage you to apply. However, it may be less likely that you will receive funding, especially in the first rounds of funding. We also would like to see how you will use this funding to transform the trajectory of your organization. Could it be that getting a few extra cash machines would help you increase your projected revenue? Could it be that getting some additional 3D printers would really help you make a product that you've never been able to offer before? Help us understand how this funding will positively influence the growth potential of your organization. And lastly, we do want to share that while it is not required to be located in one of the following neighborhoods, we do want to give some extra consideration to organizations that are based in or provide services in these communities. We have taken this list from the Miami-Dade County targeted urban areas alongside stakeholder conversations with community representatives in these corridors. We know that these communities can be historically overlooked for funding opportunities, and for that reason, we'd like to center them in this initiative. However, organizations from outside these communities are still eligible to apply for grants and loans. You do not have to be located in one of these 7 communities to apply for a grant or a loan through Miami Open for Business. We can talk about these communities for the real estate offering a bit more specifically, but do know that it is simply a priority process, but not an eligibility requirement. I see there's a lot of really great questions coming in the chat. We will absolutely get to them when we pause and finish walking through the basic eligibility and application process. We've also gotten some questions about whether we have resources available to help with your application. Our CDFI, our Community Development Financial Institution Partner, Partners for Self-Employment, can help you with your application or preparing your template attachments. If you schedule a 15-minute appointment with them, you can work with a loan counselor who will help you walk through your financials and your application. Beginning next year, we're going to have devoted TA, that is technical assistance resources in place to help you specifically with open for business applications. In the meantime, we highly recommend that you reach out to one of these providers throughout the county who provide no cost consulting and business advice. The Miami-Dade Small Business Navigator, Prospera, who specializes in serving Latino-owned small businesses, Branches, who has a micro business program, as well as Catalyst Miami. These links to these providers are also available in the FAQ documents for the initiative. Before we segue to talk more details about each of the grant and loan opportunities and answer some of the questions in the chat, I do want to make sure to call your attention to all of the resources that are available on our website. We have a very lengthy FAQ document that tackles very frequently received questions. We have some flyers that you can distribute. For instance, if we have some attendees on the line who serve small businesses, you can please feel free to print these out or send them via email to the businesses and nonprofits that you work with. And then for every funding item or financial product that we offer, there's a detailed funding document on our website. And so here you'll see the screenshot of the collective real estate ownership funding guidelines document. And every one of these resources is also available in Spanish and Haitian Creole. So be sure to visit our website, check out the FAQs and the detailed funding guidelines for each of the financial products. We're going to start talking about the microgrant in a little bit more detail, but I'm going to pause and answer some of the questions that have come in the chat. So Vero would like to know whether you can apply for equipment and or technology. Is there a list of suggested items? Yes, here on the screen, we will walk through some examples. You can apply for either equipment or technology. At this time, to fund as many businesses as possible, we're asking organizations to pick one of the use cases or purposes. Sharon asks, what is the limit of nonprofit yearly budget? 1 million? Yes, that is correct. The eligibility requirement is that the nonprofit organization have an annual operating budget of $1 million or less. Joy asks, while our leader is not from an underserved community, we provide weekly music classes to over 1,000 children in under-resourced communities. All of the other requirements are spot on. Would we still be eligible? That's a really great question, Joy. I would still encourage folks to apply and help make your case for how it is that you serve and that you impact and that you have an influence on your adjacent community and how the funding could help better serve that community. While we can't guarantee that you'll be selected, we'd like to make sure that we're also prioritizing minority-led organizations. It does not immediately make you ineligible to apply. Sandra asks if you must be located in Miami-Dade County. Yes, that is correct. Consistent with funder guidelines and also the chosen focus area. This is an initiative that is specific to businesses located in and serving Miami-Dade County. Brinley asks whether we will get this recording. Correct. All of the recordings for the informational sessions will be archived on our website. We have been recording since the beginning of the session, and we will be sure to upload it on our website. Mark has asked about a nonprofit or organization that provides after school and summer camp. Yes, you're absolutely still eligible to apply in spite of not being a traditional commercial revenue generating organization. We really see nonprofits inclusive of the definition of small businesses in the community. We do want you to still try to attempt to quantify your impact and metrics. For example, number of children served, the demographics of the children that you serve. Could you foresee an increase in donations as a result of the technology that you receive? Could you potentially serve more children? Those are the types of metrics that we would like to see folks forecast. Is a dance company that pays its dancers $15 an hour eligible to apply? Yes, you are still eligible to apply. However, when we score and review the criteria, let me go back to the slide. These are simply the scoring and review criteria that the strength and quality of your proposal will be assessed against. We'll typically use like a scoring matrix and look at these dimensions. However, the eligibility requirements are spelled out here. So for instance, if you have more than $1 million in annual revenue, you are not eligible to apply. However, if you are not an employer firm, you can still apply. Your application will not necessarily be scored as heavily in that one dimension. If you are a business that is looking to hire, yes, you will still qualify. Hopefully the distinction between the scoring criteria and the eligibility criteria was made a bit more clear. We would love to fund organizations that exhibit all 6 of these dimensions, but we also know that everybody is at a different state in their organizational journey. The next funding cycle, will it be approximately 6 months after the November grant cycle? No, Sharon, we will actually be launching the next funding cycle very early in 2023. You can expect each funding cycle to happen around the same time annually. So the next funding cycle will launch at the beginning of 2023, and then the third funding cycle will mirror the current calendar of grants that we're offering right now. Janie has asked a question about how many grants will be awarded. On this slide, you can see a total annually of 40 to 60 organizations will receive microgrants, and an annual total of 30 to 50 organizations will receive loans. At the culmination of the program, we expect anywhere from 300 to 500 organizations will have received microgrants and or loans through the initiative. Excellent. Thank you all for these questions. I see Jamila has a question. If you're an LLC with only 1 employee, yes, you are still eligible. It is not an eligibility requirement to be an employer firm. It is simply something that we will elevate and give some points to during the application process. I do see some additional questions that have come in the chat. The deadline to apply depends on the program that you are applying for. The microgrant deadline is Monday, November 7th, and the loan fund will continue accepting applications through December 1st. Excellent. I know that we have a number of questions in the chat. I'm going to go through and walk through the 2 financial products that we're offering, may help answer some additional questions, and then return to the chat. Thank you all. These are really great questions, and I appreciate you all being so attentive and interested in this product and this program. So just to walk through the microgrants in a little bit more detail, while funding requests are open up to $20,000, we will be funding organizations at a variety of amounts. So we really implore you to think about what that product or item is that could really help take your business to the next level. We will not be able to fund everybody at the $20,000 level, but we would like to fund as many organizations as possible. The deadline to apply is on Monday, November 7th by the end of the night. There are no advantages to submitting your application sooner. We will only begin reviewing applications after we have received all of them, and then we will score them and award them appropriately. We received an earlier question about what types of products. When we say technology, we're referring to both hardware. So those are physical assets such as laptop computers, Wi-Fi routers, cameras, video capturing equipment, printers, traditional printers, 3D printers, copy machines, cash machines. If you're in the arts and culture business, you may have specific hardware that helps you produce set design items. This basically looks very different from one business to the next. It could be a point of sale machine. It really is going to be specific to what you need for your business and think would really help make a difference in your organization's trajectory. We are also very proud to offer grants in the software space. It is not very often that you see this type of funding. And so we are happy to pay for subscriptions and licenses, let's say a year of QuickBooks, Microsoft Office, Square for payment processing, CRM, funder donor management software. Again, this will look very different from one organization to the next, but we are very excited to be able to fund items in the software category. We're also funding equipment and machinery. We are open-ended in terms of whether that is a cleaning equipment, whether this is a machinery that you use to fabricate items in bulk, whether this is something that you're going to use to make sets for plays. Again, it'll look very specific. The key difference that we want to call out here is that equipment and machinery does not include items like forklifts, tractors. Basically, if it has wheels on it and it can be driven down the road, we're going to treat that as a vehicle, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the loan fund. Great questions, folks. Vendor estimates. I know it is not prohibited to purchase something from Amazon. We just need to have substantiation of the amount that you're requesting and how much it'll be equivalent to. The funding period for the micro grants is a 1-year grant. You may be able to apply for more than 1 year of the technology subscription. However, all of the funds will be dispersed and from the Miami Foundation within a 1-year period. Excellent questions all. Just to let you know what to expect in the application, I think a lot of you have probably already visited the application. We really appreciate your interest. We just want to give you a preview of the questions that you will have to respond to in narrative format for these two types of organizations. Nonprofit applicants will speak a little bit about the purpose of the item, the impact on the organization, as well as the future trajectory of your organization and the way that your organization benefits the community. We did answer a question earlier about indicators and metrics. Again, this is going to look different from one organization to the next, but maybe you're serving more clients, you're expanding to a second location, you're keeping someone's job. There's a lot of variety of ways that you can project this impact. We want to know what you foresee being able to obtain as a result of funding. Questions for for-profit applicants will look slightly different because we want to know a little bit more about your business model, your customer base, and also what you will do with the asset and how it will influence the growth or trajectory of your business. This is also the opportunity to help us understand how your company benefits, society, whether that's from an environmental sense, whether that's from a local community sense, etc. There's a couple of pieces of documents that we will request as part of the application. Nonprofit applicants are a little bit more straightforward. However, if funded, you will be required to provide some of this tax documentation. And for-profit applicants, we'd like to understand your projections for the future financially, a latest copy of your business tax return, as well as a roster of current and projected employees. The templates for each of these requested items can be found on the resources page of the MiamiOFBloans.org website. Excellent. So this concludes the portion of the webinar about the microgrants. Before I pass it off to Maria, who's going to talk a little bit about the loan fund, please let us know if you have any additional questions about the microgrants that you feel we have not answered yet, and I will review the chat. Excellent. So I see somebody has asked about the funding period. We did clarify that it is a 1-year grant. We do the subscriptions include trainings? Vero, that's a really great question. If it's a training, like a web-based training that you would like to get paid for, there's a possibility that we can fund it. However, we are not able to fund trainings that you provide to your staff to learn how to use some of the subscriptions. At this time, we cannot use Miami Open for Business funding for things such as salary, payroll, overhead, etc. And training is one of those items, like for instance, bringing a facilitator on site to help your employees use the subscription that you got through the grant. But if the subscription or the software that you're paying for is a training itself, that is allowable. For nonprofits, who counts as leadership? Staff, executive director, or board? That's a great question, Daniela. The purpose of asking about the leadership's racial, ethnic, and cultural identity background is primarily geared at the CEO or executive director. And it is typically, unless in the case of co-executive directors, one person. So those questions in the application around leadership at the nonprofit refer to primarily the ED or the CEO. I see Sharon has asked if all 4 sessions are the same. That is correct, Sharon. We'll be repeating the same information about the grants and the loans in each of the 4 info sessions. If you're interested in the collective real estate funding, there is a separate webinar about that. We will be recording all of the sessions. I guess the only thing that'll be different is the questions that you all bring to the table. Really great questions. Appreciate all of the curiosity and clarity that we can try to provide in this session. Let's see. The application says to choose one of 3 items for funding. Yes. At this time, to maximize the number of organizations that we can support, we do ask you to choose either hardware or software at this time. There's a small possibility that in the future we may change these guidelines, but we're really trying to maximize the number of organizations that can receive funding through Miami Open for Business. And that also leads me to remind folks that while the microgrant funding opportunity is available up to $20,000, it is very possible that we might award less than this amount so that we can fund more than one organization. So please be judicious in your funding requests. We will try to the best of our ability to honor all funding requests, but we may not be able to fully fund you at the amount that was requested. Sandra asked if the recording will be shared with attendees. Indeed, yes, it will. We are recording it now and it will be uploaded to the website. Vanessa asked if you can apply for a microgrant to cover the cost of equipment that you already purchased and are still paying off. That's a really great question, Vanessa. That does sound to me slightly more like the loan fund that we're offering to restructure and pay off debt that was taken on to build assets. But you might want to provide some more specific details about your case and email it so that we can provide you with more specific guidance. And let me put those emails back on the slide just for folks who may be joined late. We have contact information for both. If you're a nonprofit organization, please send your inquiries to the Miami Foundation. If you are a for-profit business, please reach out to our team at Partners for Self-Employment who can help you a little bit more specifically. And we'll be sure to put those contact info in the chat as well. Folks, are there any other questions about the micro grant for technology and equipment? Please let us know in the chat. And then we will pause for a second and then we'll talk a little bit more about the loan fund. Okay. Bentone, and excuse me if I mispronounced that, asked whether it is a one-year grant and awards will be announced in December. What is the start date for funding? Excellent question. This will be a one-year grant starting in January 1st of 2023. What is the website or link for nonprofit applications? I will put that in the chat so you can be able to navigate directly to our website. So I'll pause for a moment. Let me put the email addresses in the chat as well as the application portals. Excellent. I cannot copy and paste in the Zoom chat, so if you'll give me 1 second, we will upload. Here you go. That submittable is a different submittable. If you're accustomed to applying for funding opportunities from the Miami Foundation, you will notice that this is a different submittable. So please be sure for nonprofits to submit their application here. Cristina, I see you have a question about software development. Please email us offline so we can give you more specifics. I want to make sure that we answer your question adequately based on the specific case. Excellent. Sandra asked if the 20 million will be dispersed across over 2 years over the 3 categories. And yes, that is exactly right. We will be awarding funds through the end of 2024 across these 3 categories. We will also have some grants for technical assistance providers coming out in the next few weeks. Those are organizations that help small businesses and help nonprofits with their, financial affairs, getting additional donations. So there's some additional grants coming out that you don't see reflected on this slide. Great, awesome. So without any further ado, I would love to pass it over to Maria Cotto. She can introduce herself briefly, the Executive Director of Partners for Self-Employment, and tell you a little bit about the ABLE Loan Fund that we have partnered with Partners for Self-Employment to administer.
Thank you, Brittany. Can everybody hear me?
Come off mute.
Am I off mute now? Perfect. So again, thank you, Brittany. And thank you all for coming and joining us today. I'm going to go through the ABLE loan products. There are 2, a product for-profit agencies and a product for nonprofit agencies. And then, of course, we'll open it up to question and answers. So the ABLE loan program is a loan that's designed to go between $5,000 and $100,000. The repayment terms on that loan are anywhere from 1 year to 5 year, depending on the asset and the useful life of the asset purchased with the program. And as I mentioned, we have two products. We have a product for for-profit businesses and a product for nonprofit businesses. Once you're applying on the website, and you'll see on the slide that there's two different places to apply, make sure that you're clicking on the right resource when you apply. For for-profit businesses, the interest rate is capped at 3%, or the interest rate is a blank 3% for all applicants. And for nonprofits, the interest rate is 0% for all applicants. We will be accepting applications on a rolling basis through December 1st. We encourage applicants to not wait until December 1st to put that in. And if I can encourage applicants to not call the number while I'm on the phone with you, while I'm on this webinar with you, that would be great. I apologize for that. I lost my train of thought with the incoming phone calls.
You're great, Maria. Would you like me to talk for a second about the interest rate? Just briefly, I do want to clarify that this is a funder guideline from Wells Fargo. And some of the rationale for offering a 0% interest loan to nonprofits is that there's very few opportunities for loans for nonprofit organizations. It can be very hard to get a commercial bank loan, and their revenue generating model is very different than revenue generating businesses. So that explains a little bit about why you see the interest rate that you do for the type of organization.
Thank you, Brittany. As I was saying, the applications are accepted. We do encourage individuals not to wait to the last minute in order to submit their application, because what we would like to do is to give businesses an opportunity to cure any issues that we may have with their application. So if you submit an application and we need some clarifying information, or you forgot to submit a particular document or something, we'd like you to have the time necessary to cure those issues. So we do encourage you not to wait till the last minute in order to submit your applications. And then for many loans, we're going to be dispersing whenever possible. And this was a question that came up in the chat a few moments ago, with the idea of purchasing through Amazon. While it is not disallowed, whenever possible, we will be making payments directly to the vendor on behalf of the applicant in order to purchase the asset. So let's say you would like to buy a van for your business, and that van is at a Ford dealership. We would be making payment directly to a Ford dealership in order for you to acquire that van, when at all possible. If that is not possible, then what we will do is we'll do a conditional disbursement and give you a certain number of days, depending on how many days we anticipate it's going to take for shipping, for you to provide us proof that that asset has been acquired. And proof of that asset being acquired is proof of the payment, and then proof that you've actually received it. So some of the questions that come up regularly is, what can I actually use these loan funds for? So one of the most popular, of course, is vehicle purchases. So trucks, vans, trailers, forklifts, as Brittany said earlier, anything with wheels that you can drive from one location to another and can be used exclusively for commercial purposes. And again, we need it to make sense for your business, right? So if you are running a greeting card business, we cannot finance a forklift for you. So it's got to make sense for the business that you are applying under. And I recognize that a lot of you may have multiple businesses, but it's got to make sense for the business that you're applying under. Remodeling and renovations are also an allowable expense through these loans. And this includes interior, exterior, plumbing, electrical upgrades, energy efficiency upgrades, anything that has to do with COVID health and safety protocols, or ADA compliance issues are also allowable expenses under this loan program. One of the things that we ask our applicants to keep in mind, though, is if you are doing renovations and those renovations are going to be amortized out for a 3 to 5 year period, you must have control of the space for a minimum of that amount of time. So if you are currently leasing and your lease expires in 6 months, let's say, we're going to have to work with you to negotiate the extension of that lease in order to ensure that you're going to be able to have access to this, to these renovations for the life of the loan. Under these loans, you can also do inventory purchase. And this is for bulk goods and services and merchandise, textiles, raw materials, etc. We recently received the question of a small cafeteria and whether or not consumables that are rolled over on a weekly basis, such as milks and coffees and things like that, would those be considered inventory loans? Those would not fall under this particular category, simply because they're not considered a longer term asset. They are a short term consumable. We can use this loan in order to refinance predatory debt. And that is predatory debt that your business took on to purchase an asset, but that asset has to still be in your possession and has to be in working condition. And of course, when we're talking predatory debt, we're talking high interest loans. So if you took out one of these equivalent of payday loans for small businesses that are charging you a daily amount, let's say, or even a weekly amount in the 20-something% interest rate, and it's based on the amount of income that you have that week, those are usually considered predatory loans. So we can refinance those loans monthly payment and actually get you out of that predatory situation in many cases. Another item is succession planning. And this is to finance the transfer of an existing business between generations. So let's assume a family member is in the process of retiring or is looking to retire, and so they need to transfer this business down to another family member, son, brother, etc. We can do financing for the succession. We can do succession financing for the purchase of a legacy business by the new owner. So the borrower would be the new owner of the business, not the existing owner. And then our final option is cooperative ownership conversion. And this is for small businesses that are looking to sell their business to a collective of their current workers. So this is the transfer from owner to worker owner cooperative. Very different than succession planning, which is going from an owner to a relative, one or two relatives, let's say. And this is very different. This is an owner to a collective of the business's current employees. Any questions on what's allowed?
Yes, great overview, Maria. This was so in-depth. We do have one question on the inventory loan. What if the suppliers of the fabrics and the manufacturers are based in foreign countries?
So we're not providing a loan to the manufacturer. We're actually providing a loan to the business. So if you're buying raw materials from overseas, but you are manufacturing in Miami-Dade County, your manufacturing plant is in Miami-Dade County, and your business is located here, your employees are located here, you are then taking the fabrics that you are purchasing and making in Dade County, then you would qualify for the loan.
Excellent clarity. Before we go to the next slide to talk a little bit more about the application process and questions, I want to pause here. This is a lot of great information that Maria just presented. Does anybody have any questions about these 6 use cases or purposes for the loan fund? Okay, feel free to take it away.
There we go. And I just want to reiterate, this is so this is not your only opportunity to ask a question, right? If you've got a question that you feel is personal to your business, that you don't want to share in a public setting, we encourage you to email questions to us directly. Brittany has put up the email address in previously. We'll put it up again before we exit today's call. So please don't think that this is your like one and done opportunity to ask a question. It's not.
Yes, and there's a new question of whether Christina would like to know whether the loan is not for people, correct?
That is correct. The loan is for businesses, established businesses that have been in business and can prove that they've been in business for a minimum of 2 years.
Excellent. And nonprofit organizations.
Correct.
Patrick would like to know, fabrics and manufacturers are located in foreign countries, but finished products are to be sold here in Miami. Am I eligible?
Fabrics and manufacturers are located. So you're purchasing from overseas, it's shipping to you. Your warehouse or business location is located in Dade County. Your employees are located in Dade County. Yes.
Oh, great. And Jennifer did Christina clarified her question. The loan is not meant for hiring additional people.
No, this loan is not specific to businesses hiring, or is not specific to businesses creating or retaining jobs. This loan is specific to acquiring assets for your business to assist your business in scaling.
Excellent. Thanks for that clarification. I see a couple of folks are asking if you can apply for more than one opportunity. Yes, in any particular funding cycle, you can apply for a microgrant and a loan. However, once you are funded within that category of financing, you're not eligible to apply again. We will be uploading all of the slides to our website in addition to this recording. We also have a lot of great information in the full-length funding guidelines on our document and our website, and I'll put the links to those documents in the chat.
So the next thing I'd like to go spend just a couple minutes going over is the narrative questions. So for most of you, you've probably already created a logon and password, gone into the website and started filling out the application because we can see it on the back end. And we're happy that you're doing that. And again, if you find yourself stuck on any particular question, please do not get discouraged. We want you to reach out to us. We want to help you through this process. The 3 narrative questions that you're going to have to put some thought into, we wanted to kind of give you a sneak peek, even though you are able to go back in and complete your application later on. We wanted to give you a sneak peek of these 3 questions, and again, give you an opportunity to ask any clarifying questions. So the first question is basically background about your business. This is where we want you to tell us, everything you think we might need to know about your product, the service that you're selling, who you're selling to, so who your target market is, including how they benefit from your product or service. And when I say how they benefit from your product or service, are you providing a product or service to a community that may not otherwise have access to it? Are you providing this in multiple languages where it might not be readily accessible? This is where you've got really an opportunity to highlight your business and how it helps the community that you're in. And then, of course, we want to understand your team and your staff. So, and if you don't currently have a team working with you, if this loan is designed to help you scale up your business, how are you planning to be able to meet increased demand? So are you planning to add human capital? If so, kind of what's your plan in order to do that? We also want to understand the purpose. So even though we're going to ask you to complete a proposed use of funds that's going to tell us what it is that you're buying, and you're going to give us some vendor estimates. And I did see Brianna Washington's question or comment in the post. She absolutely did reach out to me today and let me know that the proposed use of funds document is not appearing on the site. We will be taking care of that this afternoon, so it will be appearing on the site. So if you didn't see it, it's not that you're looking in the wrong place, it's that we have failed to put it where it should be, and we will be correcting that this afternoon. So, but in addition to providing the proposed use of funds, we actually want you to describe, how you're going to be investing the money that you're applying for. include a description of the asset, how it's going to be used in your business. And this is where if you're purchasing something like, a car or a van, that, we could be looking at it and going, is this really going to be, is this really a business specific asset? This is where you have an opportunity to make that use case to us. So we want to know how you're going to use it in your business. We want to know how it's going to increase or enhance your business. And then we also want to know what your plan is for meeting that demand. So if you are currently not able to meet that demand, and how we're going to be looking at that is your current human capital and your current financial capabilities. So if based on your current human capital and your current financial capabilities, you are unable to do that with this new asset. And then the third narrative question is kind of your social impact and benefits. And this is where we want you to make us feel good about giving this money, right? So here's where we want to understand what the impact of the funding is going to be beyond the acquisition of the asset. So cool, your business has a new widget maker, and that's great. But how is that widget maker going to provide a social benefit or impact? Are new jobs going to be created? Are existing jobs going to be retained? Is there some type of increased community access to the goods and services? Is there a climate implication? So is this kind of a new, more climate friendly way to create your widgets using this new widget maker that you're purchasing? So this is where we want you to help us feel good about this. Any questions here? Wow, either I'm a really good explainer or I really lost everybody. So for the ABLE Fund, there's a series of documents that we're going to ask you for. And a lot of you are going to say or have said to me, hey, if this is a business loan, why are you asking me for personal information? Well, we're asking you for personal information because as an owner and or principals of the business, you personally guarantee this loan. So if something were to happen between now and the end of the life of the loan, so let's say that you take out a loan and it's a $100,000 loan to purchase a tractor, and that tractor is amortized at 5 years, but your business closes down in 3 years. That doesn't mean that you and or your business are absolved of the debt. So if the business were to close down and no longer be making sales in order to service the loan, then the owners of the business, and that's why we're asking for all information on all of the owners for the business on the application, are personally guaranteeing this loan. So that's why we're asking you for items such as an ID, social security card or similar. If you don't currently have a social security card, copy of your personal financial statement, copy of your personal income tax returns, and then a form 4506T, which actually authorizes us to go and request a transcript of your tax return from the IRS. So that is the reason for the personal information. In addition to personal information, for the purposes of guaranteeing the loan, we're also asking for business information for the purposes of determining whether or not your business is now or will be able to service the debt that you're asking for. So of course, we're asking for the proposed use of funds with vendor estimates because we want to know what it is that you're purchasing. We're asking for your actual cash flow so that we can see how your business is performing to date. We're looking for your balance sheet or financial statements in the event of a nonprofit applicant. Those can be audited or unaudited. We're going to be asking for business bank statements because we want to be able to see the transactions coming in and out. And we want to be able, that's one of the tools that we use in order to grade whether or not your business has the cash flow in order to make loan payments. We're asking for proof of address for the business. We'll also ask for proof of address for the business owners at some point through the closing process. And then we're also asking for financial projections. So in the event that you do not currently have the capacity to make these loan payments, but with the purchase of this asset, you'll be able to bring on additional customers or clients that will increase your capacity to make payments. We want to be able to see that on your financial projections. We're going to be looking at and asking you for a copy of your business income tax return. In order to prove that you are legally operating in Miami-Dade County, we're going to ask you for a copy of your business tax license and business tax licenses for any municipality that you may be operating in, one or more, depending on how many business locations you have. We're going to be asking, of course, for the current employee roster, and there's a copy of that on the site for you to fill out. And then there's also a Form 4506T, which allows us to pull down a copy of the transcript from the IRS for your business tax return, assuming that you're doing a separate tax return for your business and it's not a Schedule C on your personal tax return. Any questions there before we move on?
Maria, that was a lot of really great information, especially I know that some of these are provided as resources or templates on your website. This actually concludes all the questions or content about the loan fund. So I want to pause and make sure folks in the chat don't have any additional questions. Awesome. Well, you are really great at explaining things, Maria, and you have so much expertise in this space. And so really appreciate you for being on. If folks have specific questions about their loan proposal, their organization, what have you, be sure to email openforbusiness@miamiofbloans.org so you can get some more specific questions answered. Yeah, Jennifer asked to contact someone directly for help. If you need assistance with the loans, or if you're a for-profit business applying for the grant, please reach out to OFB Loans. If you are a nonprofit organization who's interested in a grant, please reach out to the Miami Foundation. Excellent. We only have about 2 short minutes left. So for example, we were not able to provide this information in Spanish. If you are one of those people on the line that would like to get an informational session in Spanish, please let us know. Before we adjourn today, I do want to just clarify what OFB funding cannot be used for. This is consistent with funder guidelines. This is a program to really support asset building. So at this time, the grants and the loans and the real estate funding cannot cover payroll and salary, rent for an existing location, staffing, utilities, any servicing of debt that isn't, like, for instance, the loan taken on to repay that bad debt. And also you cannot cover items with other funding opportunities. So for instance, taking out a loan to cover the purchase of technology, taking out a micro grant to cover a vehicle, etc. And so just being a little bit more clear about what can and cannot be funded with this program. Here we have some additional, the email addresses one final time. I know that Maria has also put the hotline in the chat. If you make an appointment, Diana asked if you can take documentation to the office. If you call in advance, you will be able to make an appointment with a loan counselor. For the most part, the application is online, but there's definitely folks available to help you with that. Any final questions before we adjourn today's call, and make sure to upload these slides and the recording?
So Diana asked if we must download the application. You can actually fill it out online, not download it, and not hand deliver it or anything. You can fill it out online, upload the attachments, and then of course we'll get it and give you an opportunity to cure any issues.
She says she means the documentation.
So yes, you'll download the documents, you'll fill them in, and then you'll re-upload them to the site. And Diana, if you need help doing that, please feel free to reach out to us when you get to that point, and we can assist you.
Excellent. So we're right at 2 o'clock, everyone. I want to be so respectful of everyone's time and so appreciative for you being here with us today. We received some really, really great Q&A. We'll be updating our FAQ documents, uploading these slides to our website. If you haven't visited the website yet, I really, really encourage you. Both websites, you can find a wealth of resources, detailed funding guidelines documents, as well as all of the information available in Spanish and Haitian Creole. And so thank you again for being with us here today. We're so excited to open up this program and really appreciate, again, your attention and your really great questions. Sí, María, es posible utilizar la mini subvención para suscripciones y licencias tales como QuickBooks, advertencias en Facebook, por ejemplo. Sí, para Facebook Ads, sí. Pero hay que escoger o utilizar la beca o la subvención para un propósito solo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you. María, si tienen preguntas todavía, mándenos un correo electrónico, por favor, y lo podemos responder en más detalle. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're so appreciative of your time and your interest.